Almost every service, one of the elders now, he would have to pray for me. And I would never tell anyone that I was sinning because I knew, I was like, if they find out, I'm going to be sat down. And I'm tired of being sat down. Like, I'm tired of going through this. And so then I would always tell myself and tell Joel, I'm like, maybe we should just take a break. Maybe we should just stop, chill out. But it was like my desires overcame me every single time. And I couldn't bear the thought of not being with him. And so then I compromised. And so throughout the week, I'd be having sex, and then on the weekends, I'd be leading worship. I was raised in a church family home, I guess you could say. My family is Pentecostal. And my whole life, like, I was even dedicated to the church. But it was very religious. So we would go to church, but because of my parents' divorce, we didn't speak Spanish. And so we would go to a Spanish church, but we wouldn't understand a thing. We would kind of just be going there. So growing up, it was just very shallow. I didn't have a relationship with the Lord. I got baptized at 13, but because of the protocol at church, I really wanted to sing because I'm a worship leader. And so the protocol was, if you get baptized, then you can sing. So I got baptized at 13. I was like, yeah, I felt the Lord tell me to get baptized because I want to sing. And so I got baptized, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And so then it wasn't until I got to college after high school. I was still going to church my whole life, but it wasn't until like 18 where I started like studying and getting to know Jesus for myself.
Yeah. Can you share with us some of your experiences? You have a past with trauma in your life. Can you just share what happened and how even going to church affected all of this? Like how that dynamic went about experiencing trauma in your household and then being in church?
Yeah, so it's all very meshed together. I was molested when I was 6 or 7. They were doing renovations in our home. And at that point, my parents were already split up. So my dad was renovating the home, but he wasn't living with us. And so he's renovating the master bedroom where my sister is sleeping, and the construction worker that molested me, he was grooming me. So basically, like, he was very nice to me daily. He was there probably like 2 weeks. So every day he was very nice to me. And there was one day where I went to lunch with my mom and my sister, and then I come back home and I go into the bedroom to kind of just swing on the closet rods, because that's what you would do as a child. And just like, I was just there, and he was there painting on the wall, and he was like, hey, where were you? And I was like, I was eating lunch, with my mom and my sister, super innocent. And he's like, you didn't bring me anything? And I was like, no, I didn't. And he's like, oh, well, then just, come and sit on my lap. I was like, okay. Me, innocent, thinking that he was just going to hug me or something. He sat me on his lap, and then he started putting his hands in my pants. And then I gasped. I was like, and I removed my hand, and I instantly went to go hide. Oh, God. And so as I went to go hide, I remember later on that day, in the bedroom where he was renovating, there was a bathroom. And in the bathroom was a window to the front porch. And so all the workers would go and eat lunch there. And I remember I was hiding, and I went out to go kind of be like, where's this guy? I don't feel safe. And he was outside, and he was actually facing the window. And I remember him looking at me. He's like, me go to you? And I was like, no. And I remember I hid again. And so I never told anyone of that whole thing. I kind of just kept it to myself. And then just with my parents' divorce and my dad not being in our family, it just left a big void, because on top of that, keeping my secret, my dad wasn't there. And so when he would come visit us with child support and all of that, child visits, he would be fighting with my mom. And so it was just very traumatic just growing up because nothing was stable, nothing was steady. There wasn't my dad there consistently, and then no one there to really protect me. So then I started, like, I guess, seeking attention from other guys. I remember, like, middle school, I would fall in love, like, so deep, and I would, like, dream of them, and it would be crazy to the point where I would be sending them letters, like, hey, do you like me? Do you want to date me? And it was nothing. Like, it would never be like that. And so once I got to high school, it got even harder because of all the trauma within my family. There was just a bad rep because of my family and school and what things had happened. And so when I got to school, I had a reputation of, like, being almost like a prude hoe, because I would, like, lure guys in and say I would do things, but I never did anything. And also just things of what family has done in school and stuff. And so it was just very hard because I never fit in. I always wanted a guy, and then they would be there, and then they wouldn't be there. So
Did you have any conversations with your mom about any of these things that were happening?
no, never. I didn't know how to share it at all, really. I thought it was my fault, if anything.
So was your go-to just to keep it all in, or was there family members maybe, or nobody?
Nobody.
So when did you start to share about this?
I shared it once. So when that happened, we were living in Annandale. That's where I was born and raised. And then once I moved to Manassas, we had moved. I had just turned 15. And we were having lunch in the dining room of the house that we were having. And we were talking about just family issues, like issues with my dad and, like, my mom. And my mom was there. And then I remember I just came out with it to my sisters and my mom, and I was like, oh, yeah, I was molested. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, but it's okay. Yeah.
No, was that?
That was it.
They didn't ask or anything?
No, they're just kind of like, that happened. I was like, yeah.
How did that make you feel any type of way that they didn't ask or say anything?
No, because growing up, I was always like, it's okay, I can defend myself.
No.
Yeah.
So how did you start coming into relationship with Jesus?
So I was going to community college, and I had met this guy where he did, like, a Bible group, almost like a church campus or ministry thing. And so he was, like, an apologetic. Like, he would read the Bible and, like, just go, like, study so deeply. And I was like, oh, like, I want to be like that. And so he actually, like, was teaching me. Like, he would come over to our house and, like, he would read the Bible, and I would ask him questions. And then even then, like, he actually, for the first time I've ever heard anyone sing the scriptures. And so then I was like, oh, and he played the guitar. And so, like, he really, like, instilled that, like, oh, I can do that. Like, I can sing the scriptures. I can read this word and be like that. And so that's when I really started. He encouraged me to read John. That was the first thing to read. And I was like, okay. And so I remember I was reading it in my living room, like, on the couch, just laying down with my NIV Bible and, like, folded. And I just wanted to study. And I remember I read it and I was just crying because I was like, I never knew this about Jesus. Like, I didn't know this is why he died. Like, everyone was, Easter Sunday, growing up in church, like, resurrection, everything. But I didn't know it for myself until I read the Bible.
Tell us a little bit more about how you, because obviously you're leading worship today at a church, but how did your relationship develop from there?
After I turned 18, I had graduated high school, and I was dating this guy. I thought I was going to marry him, but it didn't end up happening, and I actually lost my virginity to him. But back then, I didn't know so much about conviction as much as I do now. And so, like, whenever we would, have sex, I would get convicted. I'd be like, God, I'm so sorry. I'm never going to do this again. But I didn't really understand that. And that happened for about almost 4 years of just kind of going through that. And just even my ex, he had this brother-in-law who was my mentor, I guess, and he was a worship leader too. And so he was like, you can't be doing that. But he was much more legalistic. And so it was just, I was getting to know Jesus, but at the same time, I was still stuck in my own sin. And so it wasn't until we broke up and just dealt with undealt depression and anxiety. And I even growing up, like I had binge anorexia and anger issues. Like I had anger therapy. And so like all of that was just like pushed down. It wasn't dealt with. And so
what is binge anorexia?
So like anorexia is like when you starve yourself because you feel like you're fat.
Right.
Binge anorexia is you feel like you're fat. And so for a couple of days or hours, you won't eat until you're like, okay, I feel good enough. And then you'll start eating again. And then you're like, wait, I'm gaining weight again. So I'll stop eating.
So how did you come out of that, or how long did that go for?
That was a long time. It became so normal, like part of my life, that it didn't really stop until I came to like full deliverance and to Nova Hub Church.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about that, about going through deliverance and what led you to that?
Yeah, so after me and my ex that dated for like 3.5 years, we broke up. There was like 3 weeks that we broke up right after the breakup where I was just like crying, super depressed, and I actually started starving myself again. I was like, I'm ugly. Like, he never told me why we broke up. And so I'm like, like, God, like, just put us back together. Like, why would you do this? Like, everyone leaves. No one's consistent. And then I switched my question. And instead of saying, why, God, I said, what? What do you want me to do? And so my brother, actually, he was going to House of Antioch at the time. And I was still trying to find a church. And so it was like in transition between churches. And so I eventually, Prophet Jordan, he had a conference, Supernatural Millennials. And so then that's where I actually started my deliverance process. One of the guys that were preaching, he called me up and he was like, every spirit of suicide come out. And I just remember just screaming and just going to the ground. And so then after that, couple weeks passed. And then I go to Starbucks and I find my brother and Prophet Jordan there. And then Jordan starts discerning me and basically reading my life. And I start manifesting at Starbucks.
Wow. When you say manifesting, what did that look like for you?
Because of the anger and depression, like I just remember I'm sitting there at Starbucks and I'm just like my fists are so tight and I'm just like breathing so deeply, crying. And I do remember like people started turning around to look at me. And mind you, like we're in the corner, like I'm like, oh my God. And so I remember Jordan, he's like, okay, I'm going to pray for you. And then next weekend I'm going to put you through deliverance. So then I remember he lays his hand on me. He's like, peace in the name of Jesus. And then I'm just like, and then I was like, what the heck was that? Like, I had no idea because I was never introduced to deliverance until all of this, really.
Right. Right.
So then that following weekend, I went to House of Antioch. We were all praying, and then he calls me up, and he starts praying for me. And then he's like, every spirit of suicide, every spirit of depression, every spirit of sexual immorality, because while having sex and all that, I was also masturbating and stuff. And so all of that. And I just remember I started to vomit. And I was like, what the heck is happening? Like, I didn't even know. I was like, I need a bucket. But someone had already had a bucket there. And I was like, it was just so new. But it was almost like my spirit knew what was happening. And so I remember it was about an hour. They're just like calling everything out. They're calling depression, insecurity, suicide, immorality, every soul tie, everything. And so that was one of many deliverance sessions that I've had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you recently got married.
I did.
And that in itself is a whole testimony. Could you take us a little bit through that of the obstacles that you guys went through and, what you had to go through that?
Yeah, so when we started dating, I actually met him at my ex's church. He slid into my DMs. And so he was like, "Hey, I want to come to House of Antioch." And so he started
And
coming.
and really quick, how long after the deliverance was this?
So
Like that first deliverance
that
session?
first deliverance was in 2018, and then I didn't meet my husband till the beginning of January 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. So then throughout all of 2019, I was actually going through another relationship. I was sexually immoral with that one. And then I kept going through deliverance because it just kept bringing old things back. And so then 2020, I cut that old relationship off. And me and my husband, Joel, we started dating in September of 2020. And then we also sinned too. We also had sex. And I was also leading worship. So it brought a lot of issues because it was relationship back to back. And then I was just not dealing with everything that I needed to deal with. So then because me and Joel had fallen and I was leading worship, I got sat down. And so there.
And before even the whole, them sitting you down, uh, how was it for you to be leading worship and then living, let's say, in this lifestyle? Can you just take us into your mindset of what you were experiencing as that was happening?
Yeah, it was horrible. It was the most practical way I could put it is like having someone forgive you every time only for you to hurt them over and over again. And so it was like I would like repent and I would ask the Lord to forgive me, and then we would have like an amazing worship set, like Holy Spirit fell, and like I would be going to new places with the Lord during worship, but then I would go home and then have sex. So like it was really hard because almost every service, one of the elders now, he would have to pray for me. And I would never tell anyone that I was sinning because I knew, I was like, if they find out, I'm going to be sat down. And I'm tired of being sat down. Like, I'm tired of going through this. And so then I would always tell myself and tell Joel, I'm like, maybe we should just take a break. Maybe we should just stop, chill out. But it was like my desires overcame me every single time. And I couldn't bear the thought of not being with him. And so then I compromised. And so throughout the week, I'd be having sex, and then on the weekends, I'd be leading worship.
How did they find out?
One day, Joel was actually sleeping over at where I was renting, and then Prophet Jordan, he called Joel. Well, he called me first, and I didn't answer, and I was like, it's like 11, 12 at night. And I'm like, he doesn't call me, and I know when he calls me, it's because he picked something up in the spirit. And so then he calls Joel. I'm like, Joel, don't answer. And he's like, nah, I gotta answer. So he answers, he's like, Jordan's like, where you at? He's like, I'm at Elia's. He's like, should you be there? I'm like, no. And so then he's like, okay, we'll go on home. But he was just being, him. So then he texts both of us. He's like, I would like to have a meeting with both of you. And that was a Saturday night. I had to lead worship on Sunday. So then Sunday, I have the meeting with him, and then he's like, you need to get restoration. He's like, you're not leading today. And then he's like, you won't be leading for a while. And so that was horrible.
What was that process like, of that process of restoration for you?
It was hard in every sense because I still wanted to be with Joel, and I knew, I was like, but I need to heal. Like, I need to get myself together. Like, the reason why I'm stuck is because I keep falling in the same cycle. And then it'd be hard to show up every Sunday, and I had to sit in the front row. Like, I didn't have a choice. I was told to sit in the front row, and I saw other people lead, but it wasn't the same. It was very hard, but I started reading my word again, and I started, like, worshiping on my own. And so I started healing. Was in therapy and everything. Just in that process, I started becoming myself again. But then it came to a place where I was asked to start singing background, but I only knew leading. And so I was like, this is very uncomfortable. And then I didn't want to do that because it wasn't what I knew. And so when I would get good and healed and restored in one area, I would always be stretched and challenged in another. And then I would just feel like I'm at like the first place, like I would start all over again. So yeah, it was very challenging.
So how did you guys get to marriage? What did that look like?
So we started dating. We both got confirmation. I asked the Lord for 10 confirmation because I just wanted to be sure. And he got his. And so then we just talked about getting married and just, doing it right. And so he proposed on July 17th. And then we were still sinning. And we planned on having a wedding in December. But because we were sinning, we wanted to do it right. And I was starting to get back into kind of like leading worship, or like at least getting myself back into that place. And so then we asked the Lord, like, hey, can we get, like, if there's any other date, can we get married? And so we both got August. And then we ended up just choosing a date, August 19th, which was a month later after getting engaged. So we did that to honor God and to just honor ourselves. Like, we don't need to be like this anymore. We got to pass through this cycle. But then after approximately like 3 weeks after we got married, we were just hanging out. And all of a sudden, like, I just got super triggered from everything that I thought I got delivered from my dad leaving us, from the molestation. And I was almost raped too by a guy who I thought was my friend. And so all of that got brought up, and Joelle walked me through like a prayer where like I just had to forgive myself. Like, that stuff wasn't my fault. I didn't set myself up to do that stuff. But then like that happened. That was a Saturday. Then Sunday we had a service, and Holy Spirit just came on me, and I was praying with my spiritual mother. And then I went through deliverance all over again for forgiving my dad for leaving us, and the rape and everything, and even forgiving my ex for leaving me without letting me know why.
Where are you at today?
Today, I am leading worship again. Me and Joelle are constantly like kind of just getting the groove, meshing our lives together. But it's also challenging because after being in sin for so long, it's so weird to say, but it's uncomfortable not being in sin, if that makes sense. Like, now it's like I have nothing to stop me from getting to the Lord. But because I've been so stuck for so long, it's still like unraveling week to week, month to month, like kind of just getting to where I'm at today.
Yeah. What do you feel the Lord wants to do through you in these upcoming years?
Really just to restore myself, and then with that, helping restore others. I know one of the things that the Lord has called to is even my own family. And so just kind of being in a place where I've been healed and restored, and now I have to watch my family go through what I had to go through. It's just kind of painful, but also, very sweet, because the Lord's been gracious to do it in me, so I know He's going to do it in them. Also just obeying, like I know I have to go to school. I eventually plan to get my PhD in clinical psychology, and then opening my own residential facility, because my heart really is for kids in broken families and addicted to anything and everything, because I've been around it and I know what it's like to be addicted to something.
Elia, why do you choose to follow Jesus Christ?
I guess I've experienced Him so much that I can't. It would be foolish of me to just walk away from everything I've experienced and everything that I've felt and I've seen. And just learning more about Him, I just fall in love with Him, like if He's, human, like if He's Joelle, So I just choose Him. But it is hard to choose Him every day, if I'm honest. Like, even this week, He would be like, come and pray, come and spend time with me. I'm like, no. But it's a breath itself.
Yeah. What can you say Jesus has done in your life?
He's done so much to the point where he provides for me. Like, even just looking back, I'm the first in my family to get my own apartment, like on my own. Got myself a car. I didn't stay stuck and bound to my old life. I'm not depressed anymore. I just see life in a different way, and it wouldn't have been like that without him.
What can you say to women who may be in that same position that you were a couple of years ago before being married, and maybe have gone through similar traumas as you? What can you say to those young women or women watching?
To have grace for yourself. There's just some things that are just out of your control, and the only thing you can do is kind of just be still and kind of just take a deep breath and step out and just spend time with the Lord. Develop that relationship, really, because if I didn't further develop my relationship with the Lord, I'd probably still be where I'm at, where I was a couple of years ago, even last year.
Yeah, or worse too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some last words that you can offer up to anybody who's watching?
It gets better. Gets better, but it's also your choice. Like, I have to consistently choose myself and choose the Lord, even when I feel like I don't want to. It's reminding myself that I deserve this, because, being a child of God is our inheritance. So if you can't embrace that, it's so hard to embrace everything else.
Yeah.
So it's just embracing every moment, all the growing pains, all the hard parts, and just even the good moments, just embracing it and just loving every moment of your process. Because though it hurt for me, I can look back and just be grateful and say, like, it was for his glory. Like, and it has nothing to do about me, but more so what I can do for others because of what I've been through.